What's going on, guys? We are just waiting for our buddy Aki to arrive. Hopefully Yes, indeed, look who it is. It is me. I am here. How you doing, Jasmine? What's up, Mike? What's up, Red? How we doing? I'm good, man. I'm good. We're just waiting on our guest to get in here, and once he gets in, we will start the show. You shouldn't be too far out. Aki, what's going on, buddy?
Hey, man.
How's everybody feeling? Hopefully better than
alright.
last time.
Much better than last time.
That's good. I'm glad to hear it. Just want to make sure everything sounds okay. Can everybody hear Aki?
Hello, hello.
Is that a yes, no?
Thumbs up, thumbs down. Who knows?
I don't know. No one's said anything. Michael, Red, you were there for a second, brother. Oh, good. Can you hear Aki when he talks?
Hello, hello, hello.
All right, he can hear you. So
Wonderful.
we're good to get started. Yeah, man, it's some crazy things that have been going on in between the last time we tried this. Apparently the internet was down, like entire town, the whole time.
Oh,
We were
man.
trying to do that. Because
That's not
apparently
good.
I wasn't the only person having issues. And it was crazy. I mean, I had the internet company here the next day for like almost 3 hours trying to figure out what was going on, and they had to like completely restart my entire network.
Dang. That's wild.
And I was talking to my dad who worked for the phone company, and I was like, what was the problem? He goes, we have no idea. Um, but yeah, so guys, this is first episode podcast. We're gonna see how things roll. Um, I definitely would love to get some feedback from and anybody who listens in. Um, but yeah, Aki. So, how long have you been streaming, man?
Yes, sir. I've been streaming for. We just celebrated our 3-year anniversary on February 10th, actually. So
Oh,
about
that's
3 years.
right.
Yeah,
Because you.
yeah, it was a lot of fun. We had a good time.
Yeah, I tuned in for that for a little bit. That was really cool to see.
Yeah.
Um, what kind of got you into the whole streaming aspect? Like, what kind of started it?
Well, about 4 years ago, I had read this article on Kotaku.com, which is a gaming news website, about this place called God Squad Church, and this dude named Susie Live, who was a Christian and was streaming on Twitch, and I was like, it'd be really cool to find a good, wonderful community to go hang out in, and started watching him and following him, and I ended up really being inspired by him and thought maybe I could get into creating some content myself. Maybe create a space that could maybe feel like home for those that don't have one, or you maybe have a toxic relationship with their home, and so that's kind of what we set out to do. And yeah.
Awesome. And now it's you and is it you and your daughter that you mainly play with,
Yeah, I
or
play a lot with my daughter. I also stream with my son, baby Aki, and then my wife is also on the stream occasionally. So really, the whole family.
nice. Now, how long have you been Christian? Your whole life, or was it something recent?
I came to know Christ at a really early age. Really did business with him later in life, but yeah, I grew up in a Christian household and everything. We went to church all throughout my childhood and everything. So yeah, have known and been around Christianity most of my life.
Nice. So what kind of got you started with bringing that whole building that like faith-based community in Discord? Was it just eventually that episode, that stuff you had seen?
Yeah, I wanted to be intentional about, creating a community that could bless people. And I thought that keeping things intentional in regards to getting people pointed towards Jesus was really a nice way to not only keep myself accountable, but, to hopefully bless other people.
Yeah, it's I'm part of your Discord, and uh, I'll have links posted in chat at some point. Um, and your community has definitely been super fun to be a part of. I remember when I was still going by Saber, and Saber Tyrannus
Yeah,
refused to allow another Saber to be in the Discord, so I became Groucho Glasses Saber,
but it was
and I was so
fantastic.
confused because I had no clue what Groucho Glasses were. I knew what they I mean I knew what they were, but I never knew that's what they were called. So I was like, Groucho Glasses. What am I? If I just supposed to be like the anti Saber? Like, is that what this is supposed to be? Um, but it was funny, like, because I had to look it up, obviously. Um, so only been streaming for about 3 years. So what did you do before streaming?
Well, same thing I do now because streaming is just, unfortunately for me at this point, a side project. But I am a network engineer for a relatively small ISP. But yeah, that's my day job. I work
How
on the
long have you
internet
been
and
doing
make a
that?
network. Been in and around network. I started. Oh gosh, man, I'm gonna feel old. I started working in the industry I work in right now back in the days when I worked at a call center when I was 23 years old. That would be a very long time ago in a galaxy far, almost 16 years ago. It'd be 16
Oh
years this
wow.
year. Yeah. But I started as a tier one call center rep. I spent 6 months on tier one, got promoted to tier two, spent 6 months there, and then I got promoted to their network operations center, which is where I decided, okay, we're going to try to make a career of this, and pursued some certifications, specifically chased down some Cisco ones, and ended up getting hired at a company out in Arkansas, working as a network technician. And then 2 years later, Peach came along, and we didn't have any family where we were at. And so I was actually playing Battlefield with a buddy of mine for the company that I used to work for, and he was happened to be the boss of the network engineering group, and said, "Hey, I'd like to offer you a job as a network engineer. Um, Move back home, be close to my wife's family at the time," and that's what we did. So yeah, and then
Nice.
I was
Now,
actually a network engineer at that point.
nice. You actually had the duties of the title.
Yeah,
When did you and your wife meet?
we met when I was. I have to date myself again here. I have to think back. So we met back when in the golden days of the internet, when Zanga was a platform. I don't know if anybody listening is familiar with Zanga, but it was a blogging website. And we met through a mutual friend on there. That was back when it was really weird to meet people on the internet. And we started talking when I was 21. Um, and we talked on and off for a couple years, and then decided we wanted to make a go of it. I flew. I lived in South Dakota at the time. Flew from South Dakota to Georgia to meet her and her family and her parents and everything. And yeah,
And
rest is
obviously it
history.
went well because you guys
Well,
got
I mean,
married.
I'd like to think so. We're here almost 16 years, well, 17 years later, almost, and yeah. So
Nice. Now this might date you a little bit again, but
mhm.
do you remember when you first got into gaming?
When I first got into gaming, I was boy, oh boy, oh boy. Um, Probably second grade. Back when you used to be able to mess around with the old Apple machines that they had back in the day. That was when you had to stick a disk in to turn the computer on to begin with for it to load anything, right? So I would stick the disk in, I would turn the computer on, it would boot up, whatever educational game we had at the time, or the good old Oregon Trail, right? And
Yes.
I got banned. So I was homeschooled, and my parents tried to put me in school in second grade. I ended up getting banned from using computers that year because one day I decided I wanted to make the computer work myself when everybody else went out to recess. So I stayed behind. The teacher left with the rest of the entire class. I didn't go with the rest of the class,
Oh
and
wow.
I stuck the disk in upside down and backwards and broke the disk drive.
Oh, lovely. I'm sure the school loved that.
Yeah, it was great. And but at home, my parents, they ended up getting, it was a 386 PC. Um, it was with the little MS-DOS operating system. It was MS-DOS 5 when we first got it, with Windows 3.1. And the very first video game I remember sitting down and playing to completion was a game by a small indie company called id Software. It was a game called Commander Keen: Invasion of the Vorticons. This was before Doom, before Wolfenstein, back when they were not a very large company at all.
Interesting.
Oh yeah.
So you kind of like found like the one of those early gems by now a large company.
Yeah, absolutely.
I remember vividly. I have a I have a picture somewhere that I would love to find again of me and my father playing an Atari that was his when he was a kid.
Oh yeah.
Um, I think I was like 4 in the photo, maybe 5. Um, I think I remember this photo. It might have been my brother now that I think about it, but I remember there's a controller that's obviously very obviously not plugged in, and they're playing video games.
It's awesome.
And I remember all the old school attachments for like the PS2. Like the PS2 was like my first console. I had like the racing wheel for like the Gran Turismo games. I remember like Gran Turismo. I remember like NASCAR Thunder like 2001.
Oh wow. Yeah, that's back in the day.
Yeah. Um, I know another somewhat popular game for the PS2. Do you remember Twisted Metal?
I do remember
That
Twisted Metal. I played that. So we didn't have consoles in the house growing up, but I remember going over to a buddy's house that had a PlayStation and playing some Twisted Metal.
that game gave me nightmares as a child
Oh yeah.
because I just was not prepared for. I was like, oh, it's a racing game, and I was not prepared for the level of I'll say detail that the developers put into the characterization
Oh
of the
yeah,
vehicles.
absolutely.
Um, but it's it's crazy just to think about how video games can be essentially just like a communal gathering point. Like whoever would have thought at this point that video games could be how people get married, or how people meet their lifelong best friend, or how
I
people
definitely don't
have
think that the developers of
jobs.
Pong ever thought that that was going to be the case, right? When they created the first video
Exactly.
game. Yeah.
You've got the guys running Atari going like, this is gonna be great for people to just have waste their spare time and
Yep.
relax. And now it's just,
Yeah. And you have MMOs where you can literally get married in an MMO, right? It's crazy.
and that's, I guarantee nobody ever, ever saw that coming.
Nope. But it's awesome.
It really is, and it's been at a solid foothold for some people. I
Hmm.
mean, if you look
What?
at some larger streamers, they literally all they started with was, I like playing video games for fun. I'm gonna record myself doing it, and then
Oh yeah.
boom.
A lot of the larger streamers, larger content creators, I mean, to be quite frank, the reason they're large is because they were first. And
Yeah.
people came together and developed a community around those people and those personalities, right? But there wasn't a lot of people to watch when Justin.tv, for example, first came along. So
hmm Um, and it's been incredible for me to see just how amazing it's been to build a platform for spreading the word.
mhm.
And
Well, there's
did
going to
I
be
ever
people
think?
that sit in a Twitch stream that will never walk through the doors of a church.
Yeah. And it's an outlet to reach people that I think, frankly, up until maybe 5 years ago, has just been completely overlooked.
Yeah.
Because I don't know of many Christian content creators aside from yourself, Cross to Crown.
Hmm.
I know Soulsy. Um, I think those are the only three that I know of off the top of my head.
Yeah, Cross the Crown is fantastic. I actually talked with him. So I did a presentation to a group of youth, a couple presentations on Monday, talking about how to build a healthy online community. And Cross the Crown is someone who I gave an example of. I consider him kind of an evangelist type. He really he'll drop in Call of Duty games, right? And he blatantly starts a gospel presentation with that intentional mindset. I think it's really cool.
And it's something that I've never would have thought to be seen before. And he would be borderline the pioneer of that aspect of evangelism. It's like the modern day soapbox.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, so so you fairly young age when you grew up in Christian households.
Hmm.
Um, I guess another question would be like, what's been the biggest like impact that Christ has had in your life?
Well, he saved my life for sure, without question. I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for him, and I mean that quite literally, just in a general sense of my mental health and struggles with depression, anxiety. Delivered me from addictions, um, specifically to pornography, and yeah, the more you walk with Christ, the freer life is. And it's funny how much the world thinks that, you know, so often we're told that, living as a Christian can be bondage and a struggle, and it's just exactly the opposite of that. It's so freeing when you're living the way that your creator.
Wholeheartedly. And it's also funny too how a lot of people have interpreted the the meaning of being a Christian, like the societal standards,
Mhm.
should I say? Um, I'm not sure if you're familiar with NF at all.
I am
Uh,
familiar. I don't listen to a lot of his music. Rap really isn't my thing, but I know he just released a new album.
he just released a new song for the album. The album comes out in April, and honestly, I am very
That's good.
excited.
Yeah.
Um,
Fun random trivia fact. My pastor's wife used to babysit him when he was a kid and has his phone number in her cell phone.
really,
Yeah.
that is incredible
Yeah.
because there is not a, for lack of a better term, a celebrity that I look towards more than NF just because of his how he overcame everything through Christ, and he acknowledges that God gave
Sure.
him the talent that he has.
Absolutely.
Um, there's a song that he has called Therapy Session, where he sits and talks. Basically, he has like this one-sided conversation with himself, and there's a line where he says, "Oh, I have to find it now because it's gonna bug me if I can't quote it exactly." Um, uh, he goes, "I ain't gonna walk on these stages in front of these people and act like I live my life perfectly. That doesn't work for me. Christian is not the definition of what perfect means."
Yeah.
And he's right. It's not. I mean, yes, is that what we aspire? We aspire to be as Christ-like as we can.
Absolutely.
Yes, but we're still human. Humans make mistakes.
Absolutely.
We're not given just because we accept Christ doesn't mean we're given a get out of jail free card and able to just go sin our lives away. And it that I heard that line and it was like I had to like listen to it again just because it was just crazy. And uh,
Yeah. Really, really good.
I've heard a lot of people say that you don't find NF. NF comes into your life when you expect him the least. And honestly, I can say that with hope because I used to listen to Christian rap a lot. I used to listen to a lot of strictly like Christian rap, but then I kind of just fell off of that and kept listening to secular music just because I liked it. Um, but when I saw that he'd released Hope, I was like, oh, I never released a song. I never heard a new song from him before. I'll listen to it. And I listened to it and I was like, oh wow, it's a good song. And then I went onto YouTube that later that day, and I couldn't believe how many people were like, "Holy crap, NF just dropped a new song, and it's the most heartbreaking thing we've ever heard."
Mhm.
And I never realized the impact. So I sat through and I listened and I read the lyrics along, and it's a sad song,
Yeah.
but it's an inspiring song. Um, for for you and for those of you who are listening who don't know, NF's mother had an opioid addiction, and her and NF's father had divorced at an early age. And one of the boyfriends, this is what I've read from multiple interviews, and he used to be physically abused. And NF's mother passed away when he was only 18 from her addiction. And there's a lyric in another song where he said, "I won't forgive you because it hasn't happened yet." But in Hope, he actually says the words, "Mama, I forgive you." And I heard that and I was like, "Oh my, like this is NF coming to terms with everything that's happened to him."
Yeah.
And it just gave me so much inspiration because it was like, if he can come to terms with this massive of a mountain of struggle, it should be it's doable for every little thing. And it just shows how powerful God is, and he gives people what they need in his timing.
Amen.
And it's brought like a whole new like thinking process to my life. Sorry for that little tangent
No,
there, but
absolutely. I think that's a great tangent, and I think that walking with Christ is a process, right? So,
yes, definitely. And I definitely agree with sorry, I don't know how to say your name. CHKY. So I'm just gonna call you CH. But yes, sanctification is definitely a process. I agree with that wholeheartedly.
yeah, absolutely. Until the day we are with Him, it will be a process.
Yeah, and it's a process that it's the greatest risk reward ratio to life. Like you make the sacrifices to follow God and you gain eternity with him.
Mhm.
Um, Now I'm not entirely sure where you guys are from. I know you said you're Mountain Time, so I'm just guessing you're in that like Colorado, Montana area.
Yeah, Black Hills of South Dakota, close enough.
Really? Okay. Wow, a place I've actually been before.
There you go.
I did a little weekend vacation there with my dad, my brother, and my nephew back in 2016, I want
Nice.
to say. Um, Now, I grew up in New York originally, and I grew up in a Christian household um, where my father's parents were heavily involved in the church, my mother's parents were heavily involved in the church. Um, and I grew up with a home church because it was the church that I grew up going to. So I
Sure.
grew
Hmm.
up there. I knew everything about it. We moved to Iowa in 2012, and it was a struggle finding a home church. Just there was so much just there were so many differences, and I just wasn't. I'd never been in that situation before because I grew up knowing where we went to church was the right, in my opinion, it was the right place. It was
Sure.
like it's where I
Absolutely.
felt at home.
Hmm.
And I just now found uh, a church that I've been going to for about 8 months, I think. Um, and it's an hour away from me.
Wow.
So I drive an hour just about every Sunday to go to church. Uh, and I met with my pastor for lunch this week. And drove an hour to meet him for lunch, and actually signed my membership card. So I'm actually a member of the church now, which is huge because it feels so good to have a home.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Um, but I was just curious, as to, like, you guys ever have struggle finding a church, or did you just go to the church you grew up going to?
Absolutely. I mean, we've been through different churches over the years. My wife grew up Southern Baptist. I grew up Assemblies of God. So two relatively different stances theologically. We bounced back and forth between different churches over the years. We went to an Anglican church for a little while. Obviously, attended Southern Baptist for a little while. Um, Tried a Wesleyan church for a little while, and actually ended up back at an AOG church. And
Okay,
you know, really, really grateful for where we ended up. I feel like the Lord has us exactly where we're supposed to be.
that's awesome.
Yeah. We're really plugged into this local church, and my wife helps teach children's church, and I run sound on a weekly basis, and Peach helps run slides occasionally, and it's been a really good situation.
And Peach is your daughter, correct?
That's correct. Hmm.
Okay, I just was never sure of your children's names. Um, and so now, how old is and your youngest son is baby Aki? How old is he?
He just turned 5.
Oh wow, he's gonna be a rambunctious one. I can feel it.
Hmm. Absolutely.
Knowing who his father is, I can only imagine.
Right?
But I will say, when he gets to your age, he will have one heck of a beard.
I hope so. I hope so.
Uh, and how old is your daughter?
She just turned 12, actually.
Oh wow,
Yeah.
nice. It's always good to hear that the church that you're going you're going through that the entire family is always like hands on. Um, Somebody asked a question. They said, "How do you differentiate in-person church and online church communities, and what would be similarities?" What's your take on that?
Well, I mean, I think both have merit, both have their value. Obviously, in-person communication, it is significantly easier to discern people's intent. You can read body language in person that you can't read when you're doing things online. All sorts of other just like little ways that we communicate that you don't necessarily get in an online kind of setting. But I do think that there's a lot of value to online church as well because it's honestly I see people generally speaking are willing to be more vulnerable in an online setting. I don't know if that's just like a lack of threat, lack of like the imminent in-person intimacy. Like there's less repercussions, I think, when we are confessional online, right? Because there is, well, no, this person doesn't know anybody that I know, therefore I can share anything I want to about the intimate details of my life, and there is not going to be a lasting impact on me as a person, right? So
Right.
that is a blessing and a curse because A, it allows people to be transparent and vulnerable. B, it allows people to share things and use like gotcha moments for attention, which is a whole other impersonation, whatever. You can go through a whole bunch of other things there, drama, so on and so
Right.
forth. But I do think that there are absolutely some benefits to an online church community. There may be people who are either disabled or have health conditions that prevent them from being around other people consistently. Um, and so I think there's a lot of I think the pros outweigh the cons when it comes to online church and community. But I do think that it is important to do in-person fellowship when and where we can.
I definitely agree wholeheartedly with everything you just said.
Yeah.
And I know online church was a huge thing just because COVID threw a wrench in a lot of people's lives,
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
whether it, especially with churches, because it's how do you have service and not violate whatever state's laws are in place for that? It's
Yeah, right.
um, and then how do you make it so certain people don't feel alienated?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that was something that I've discussed with my pastor, the church I go to currently. And he said that they're still dealing with some, like trying to figure out how to reincorporate things just because they didn't do them when they were doing online church. So how do you bring it back to doing it? But because they used to do two sermons on a Sunday, they would do an earlier and a later one. So when they would have membership classes, they would have membership classes during the sermon, and then people who went to the membership class during the sermon could just go to the later sermon. Well, one of the series we're doing right now, we're doing the series Revelation, which, side note, has been amazing.
Yeah,
Um,
that's awesome.
but how do you do the membership class during the sermon when uh, people are invested into 6 weeks into a series?
Mm-hmm.
And so that was something that just changed as of recent. So they just went from doing it in three classes to doing it all in one, which they all kind of agreed was for the best. And I was like, yeah, totally get it. I mean, you got to do what you got to do.
Absolutely.
Um, I also will say another pro, in my opinion, to online churches is in my circumstance when I relocated when me and my family relocated to Iowa.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't have a church. We were able to watch the church I grew up going to, which was nice because I was still getting my feed of my. I was still able to hear someone preach the word,
Yeah, absolutely.
which obviously is important in the life of a Christian. Um, Uh, I lost my train of thought. Where was I? Oh, yes. So early age of playing games. Um, do you have like specific favorites? Do you have some that you refuse to play?
Um, Definitely have my favorites. Number one overall, all time, Chrono Trigger. It's a wonderful JRPG that has a very special place near and dear to my heart. Um, I love the Final Fantasy series. Final Fantasy 7 and X are standouts from that. I really love JRPGs. And in the RPG vein, obviously the first game I ever played was a game done by that small indie company called id Software, which went on to be Doom. Love Doom, love first-person shooters. So if you mash RPGs and FPSs together, you get one of my favorites, which is Destiny 2.
Yes.
Play a lot of Destiny 2. Really are enjoying that. Very excited for Lightfall next week.
I
But
just pre-ordered.
yeah, let's go. As for games that I refuse to play, um, well, I don't stream any M-rated games on my channel just out of principle. I mean, I stream with my kids, so we don't really
Right.
play any of that stuff. As for just flat out refusal to play, definitely anything that has the AO label on it. Probably also going to skip Diablo 4. It looks like it's taken a pretty dark turn. I mean, we'll see, but I don't know. It's just not one that really excites me too much.
Yeah. I definitely have my fair share of games that will uh I will definitely I will sit down and play just about any game
Hmm.
because I can't not like it unless I try it.
Sure.
But I have games that will make me smash a controller or two. Um,
Absolutely.
I used to keep an Xbox 360 controller around with my Xbox One that I could throw instead of my expensive Xbox One controller.
Yeah.
One of those games being Destiny 2 Gambit. Um, I was spawn sniped on an invasion 3 times within a matter of 7 seconds, maybe.
Oh yeah.
And I'll say it wasn't my proudest moment. Um, I definitely had my fair share of rage at games.
Yep. Happens to the best of us.
But then there's also the playing with the friend group that deliberately says, "Hey, we know what'll get to them. Let's do this." And then they all say, "Oh yeah, it'll be funny. It's funny for everyone else, not for me."
Right.
But I eventually look back at it and have a good laugh. Um, so what? So you stream strict? Do you stream with Peach more than you do solo, or just more solo than you do with Peach?
I think it's about evenly split these days, especially the older she gets and the more she can game on her own. Um, She's been getting into Destiny lately, so we've been playing a fair amount of that together. I know she's really excited for Lightfall.
Good.
We just wrapped up the Witch Queen campaign last night, so
Oh, lovely.
yeah, she's
What
ready.
was what was her take on that?
Well,
Because I know that ending that those ending sequences are very interesting.
yeah, I mean, overall, she thinks, Sabatune was bad, Traveler good, so we'll see. We'll see.
Have you played the current season's campaign?
Yes, yeah, played all the way through it.
So actually, the group that I usually play Destiny with, we were taking a little bit of a break just because when we play Destiny, we play Destiny,
Absolutely.
and sometimes a good mental break is a good refresher because it reminds you why you love the game.
Yeah, for sure.
And so I decided one night I was home by myself. I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna play it because I don't know what it's like, and it could be fun. And I've always been kind of enthralled by the whole Warmind aspect of the game. Let's see if this unravels anything. And
Yeah,
holy crap, was I satisfied.
yeah, it was fantastic.
Um, I won't spoil it because it's still technically the current thing.
Still somewhat new. People can still go play the mission until next week, and then
Yes,
it's
this is
gone.
your
It's gone
last.
forever.
Yes, I played through the entire campaign, I guess, campaign solo, um, except for the last mission.
Hmm.
Um, I got to the last mission and I was like, oh, it's recommended 13. It's cap locked at 1350. Oh, it won't be that hard. I was
Mm-hmm.
wrong.
Hmm.
Um, I definitely. I remember playing. I remember starting Destiny the year Taken King came out.
Oh
A good
wow,
friend of
okay.
mine
So a while ago, yeah.
introduced me to it because I just moved here and I was only 2 years into living here. It was my sophomore year of high school and didn't have a ton of friends, didn't really talk to a ton of people because I was the new kid from New York. So everyone was like, "Oh, why is the city kid living out here?"
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I got to meet him through the public library in the town I lived in, and he was like, "Do you play Xbox?" And I was like, "Yeah." He goes, "Well, have you heard of Destiny?" I'm like, "No." He goes, "Well, have you played Halo?" I'm like, "Yeah, I've played Halo." He goes, "Okay, well, it's like imagine Halo, but without the ship fighting." So I'm like,
Yeah.
"So without the fun part?" He goes, "Well, kind of, but it's got more details." I'm like, "Oh, okay." So he told me about it, and I was like, "Mom, Dad, can I get this game that I can play with my new friend?" And they were like, "Yeah." Little did they know that it would suck me in and make me invest almost $400 into this game.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, Mom and Dad, if you're watching. Um, it's been it's been fun playing it. And when I found out you played it, I was like, yes, a Christian streamer that plays Destiny. This is
Absolutely.
amazing.
There's a small
Um, I,
handful of us. I'm trying to think in the directory. I don't know. I think I think I'm the biggest. But there's definitely some other really, really good ones in the directory too.
I'll have to look through. I wonder if I can find like um an actual thing that will tell me
Yeah.
like who's Christian content creators.
Hmm.
Um, One I was watching on YouTube that I wasn't expecting at all was a they do a lot of music talk. Um, and oh, what were they called? Uh, they're called Riker Road. They're not the
Hmm.
cleanest with their language. They cuss some or a lot. It depends on what the video is.
Sure.
But they were reacting to NF music, and they were reacting to an NF song that had a non-Christian artist in it who actually that song brought him to Christ. The song that he was in brought him to Christ.
Well, that's awesome.
Um, and it completely changed his perspective. He still releases secular music, but he claims to have accepted Christ. Um, but the line is he's on his knees praying to the Lord with the Book of James, and they sat there and they talked about the Book of James for like 20 minutes, and I'm like, I did not expect this at all to come from these people,
That's
and
amazing.
uh, it's weird because you find it in the most random, unexpected places, which I feel like is almost the best because when you're not prepared for it is what makes it amazing. Um, but that's kind of where I'm at that point with where we're at with that point. I don't know how much of your life story you wanted to share or how much you felt comfortable sharing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm open to any and all questions.
Um, I mean, because I figured I don't know how much time you had, but I was figuring to run for about an hour, hour 15. So I was gonna give you the last little bit of time just to share your life story.
Sure. Yeah. Well, we've talked about a good chunk of it, but I grew up in a small town in South Dakota on a Native American reservation, which I think has given me a unique perspective on, gosh, a lot of things in regards to how that whole group of people have been treated. by the country, and then also how effectively managed some government programs are, which is not. Um, but also, spent some time in the military, Air National Guard, and
Oh, I
then
didn't know that.
yeah, met my wife. Lived all over the place. I've moved, gosh, a lot. I think over 20 times if you count like all of the different locations and places, and depends on if you count like trainings and different deployments for like tech schools and things like that. But um, love my family, love my kids, love my animals. So the dog you just heard barking, we have a corgi that we just got. My wife got it for Christmas, and
Oh,
that's been
lovely.
that's been a fun thing. But we've had dogs ever since I was a kid. My parents actually had two calico cats, and then we've always had dogs. We've had my uncle has always done German shepherds, but my dad has always been into labs, and so we had a yellow lab golden retriever mix named Coco. He was just really, really just the sweetest dog. And then after he passed, my dad got this dog named Scout, and Scout was just one of those once in a lifetime kind of animals. And I don't know if my parents will ever own another dog again after him because he was that special.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
and for us, we had a pug. Her name was Lulu. She passed away this past Christmas season, but she was probably our once in a lifetime kind of dog. She was with us through the birth of both of our children, multiple trips, moves, lots of life change. I mean, basically, we got her a year after we got married, and so she was in and around our lives for just so much of it. Such a
So
wonderful
she
thing.
was the family dog.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Gotta love that.
So, but we're very much animal people. Um, I love to spend time outdoors, off of screens. Also, I love to. I have a side by side. I have a Kawasaki Teryx that I will take the kids and we'll go out. We'll explore trails and do rock climbing and things, and that's a wonderful pastime and hobby when it's warmer because right now it is -8 degrees outside, so I'm not going out on the trails at this point in
See,
time.
usually I try to have somewhat a positive perspective on things, but if there's one
Right?
thing I never have a positive perspective on, it's the winter, because I believe it's actively trying to kill us.
Yeah, it's 100% every time. So, but yeah, that's kind of just that's the real short and sweet version of my life story. But at the end of the day, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Christ, and for
And
every good thing in my life, to God be the glory.
that's honestly just amazing to hear. Is that and who's to think how many people could how many lives you've touched by just sitting down at your desk and
Something I won't know the answer to until I get to heaven. But yeah, for sure.
exactly. And if I was in your position, it'd be something I'd be okay with not knowing the answer to, because
Yeah.
if it's one, amazing. If it's 1,000, amazing.
Yep. Whatever it is, to God be the glory.
Exactly. Guy I used to go to church with, Mr. Al. Whenever he came up to talk, he would always start off talking with saying God is good, and the congregation would reply all the time. And then he would reply with all the time, and the congregation would reply with God is good.
Amen.
And he would say not part time, not sometime, but all the time.
That's right. And on all
And
things.
that's something that's kind of just stuck with me my entire life. There's
It's easy to
there's
say
ever
that when life is good.
definitely it's definitely easy to say that when life is good. And I have definitely been at the end of the stick where it's like, why is X Y Z happening?
Yeah.
Why can't life just be easy? But God gives us struggles to make us rely on Him.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, my grandmother had a saying after my grandfather passed away, and it was frog. It was fully rely on God,
There you go.
and so everything. She passed away this Thanksgiving, and so everything was just frog. And when we went through her house, there was a tote full of everything frog related.
Mm. That's
And
awesome.
it's just a beautiful reminder as to how God can use one person to touch many people's lives.
Amen.
Um, I know you've got I know you had a short window to join. I don't know what your window looks like now, but if you need to go, I will let you go.
Yeah, I do need to wrap things up here. I have a couple kids that I know really want to hang out. So,
All right. Well, in that case, we will go ahead and call it here. Aki, thank you so much. I couldn't be more thankful to have you uh, as my first guest on the show. Um, I
yeah, brother, I'm
genuinely
really honored
appreciate.
that you invited me on, and I really appreciate it.
Yeah, and great conversation. That's look at that. Mama Peach just gave me a follow.
Absolutely.
How lovely.
She's
Um,
been sitting here next to me listening to me talk. So,
nice, nice. Just sitting there and hearing. Hopefully, well, hopefully both halves. Um, no, man, but it's definitely been a pleasure knowing you. It's been a pleasure having you on. I look forward to having you on again at some point, maybe when my Xbox decides not to do stupid things and my internet decides not to do stupid things.
all good, brother.
Um, but you have an awesome night, man. Go have fun with your family.
All right, brother.
I'll talk to you later. Point.
Take care. God bless you.
You too, man. God bless. All right, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in to the first episode. I will be trying to get this done maybe like twice a month, hopefully. I have to see about getting other people to talk to on. Um, but I will definitely keep you all abreast of a, I guess a schedule for lack of a better term. Um, but yeah, thank you all for tuning in. I hope you guys have an amazing rest of your week. And as always, God bless. See ya.